Good evening everyone, Ads here from Unity Trading Group. Welcome to your Tuesday night update. Before we begin this evening, hit that like button, tap the subscribe button if you can, and of course tick the bell to stay updated on all of our future content, specifically our updates every single day. Thank you all to those who have subscribed so far. We have just recently reached our 1,000 subscriber count. So without all of you, there wouldn't be any UTG. So again, from the bottom of my heart, and of course on behalf of Tex as well, thank you all for being here. Yesterday, we said as a thank you for the 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, if you head over to the Discord, you'll be able to look at and claim that UTG RSI indicator. Of course, you can even go to the charts there, hit indicators, and of course UTG /RSI. That's free to use on TradingView, and that's what it looks like down the bottom here. You've basically got red under the 50 RSI, green over the 50, and of course you've got the ability to set alerts on this RSI as well, where we've got RSI crossing above and below the 50, and this will give you an opportunity to see any sort of market or any sort of chart that is moving down underneath that level in terms of bearish territory, and of course moving above in terms of bullish territory. So make sure you take full advantage of that free indicator we've got on TradingView. But without further ado, let's talk about BTC and where we're at since yesterday. So yesterday we really spoke about the dive from 65 down to about 52. So we're looking at our swing high down to our swing low. And of course, our swing low resided very nicely on our daily level of demand down here, which I've been drawing in blue. So the daily level, I'm looking at the blue, and of course the 4-hour level, I'm looking at the purple. So two very distinguishable levels there. You can see our daily level was really formed on this market pivot point where we've got a significant movement out of that zone, and a cluster of candles were made in that level there to give us that movement. You can see that daily candle there in red just on the chart there. So that's why I've got two levels drawn in, because the daily level, of course, being at 1 day, it's going to have more movement, it's going to have more data, and of course it's going to be more respected. So that's why I've got that level drawn in, and we did have a respected bounce off this level. The next talking point from last night was the eventuality of a potential move back up to our level of supply, and that corresponded nicely with our gravy train resistance there as well. If you want to know more about gravy train, you can find it in the link below, of course. But in any case, we were looking at this level specifically for a bounce. It didn't come to fruition immediately. We have been rejected here on 58k, which is a nice round psychological resistance point. And of course, we are just moving above the 55k mark now at 55,250. So the next question really is, are we going to move back up to this level for a potential retest, or are we going to move down? A question for the ages. So let's get some help from our fibs, drawing from swing high to swing low. And we have from swing, or obviously drawing from left to right on our screens there. We just fell short of the 50 levels of fibs. And of course, we are looking above the 23.6 being respected on that level, of course, from the last two candles, of course, being rejected. So it's really time that we need to be patient. There's a couple of comments in the Discord today from my partner in crime, Tex, saying that he falls mostly in a cash position. Of course, we'll be looking at averaging ourselves back into this market at when these levels start to stabilize. So if we're starting to see some movement to the right hand side, some stability in the market, we can see some of these key levels being tested. Of course, we will start to average back in. Just full transparency, I took some positions when we were down here. That sell-off proved to be a decent buying opportunity for me in particular. And of course, as we start to move downwards, if we do start to move downwards, I'd be looking for more entry levels, around that 46 or even around that 50K. And I did mention today, just before going live, or just before starting to record this video, I said 50K or even high 40s, like I mentioned yesterday, is a real possibility over the next few days. And I do think that is the case. We'll probably retest 52, probably at least in the next couple of days. We can see that we are, trending below that 50 RSI now. So a movement towards our level of 61.8 and our level of supply is less favorable, but I'm not leaving that off the table as a possibility, because that level there resides with a few nice indicators. More specifically, gravy train, you can see the cloud structure there, and of course the cloud structure just to the left hand side. We've got our level of supply obviously sitting there before that movement down towards 52, and of course we have the 61.8 Fibonacci retrace from drawing from left to right, from swing high to low, to see our retracement back up, and that lines up nicely with the 61.8. So I'm not leaving that out as a possibility, but it is possible that we can be rejected here and continue to the downside. But in saying that, the volume has not been stellar today. We have had reduced volume from yesterday, and we are looking like the volume is starting to normalize, like we did see back here on the left hand side. So it is a waiting game, unfortunately. I have said that multiple times in the past, but it really comes down to, we need to see if we're going to hold this 23.6 and move back towards the 38.2, and of course we can expect that 61.8 retrace to be filled, of course. Moving on though, and this is staying on the topic of BTC, if we go to the CME chart, we do have that gap that I spoke about yesterday that is still relevant in my opinion. And that gap being, just get rid of that gap being between where we are now, of course, and 60,000. And that really coincides nicely with the previous chart I was just talking about and the previous level of supply. So we have not filled this gap yet. So I do believe this gap will be filled eventually. Whether or not we test some of these downwards levels first. So if we're drawing these levels in on the CME chart, I'll draw in the most relevant levels to me. Give me one moment. So the most relevant levels on the CME chart, in my opinion, on the 4-hour time frame, reside with 52 to 50, exactly like our BTC USD chart that we just mentioned. 48 to 46, of course, that coincides nicely as well. We've got a retest here at 44 with some price action to validate that zone. And of course, the breakout from 38K. That is the levels that I'd be looking towards if we do see some more striking movements to the downside. It's probably a little bit early to tell, and a little bit early to say that with absolute certainty we'll see these levels again. I think high 40s is on the cards, to be honest, and that's just my opinion. But especially 52 to 50K, like we did retest that during the initial movement down, I think that might be on the cards a little bit sooner than we do anticipate. So the real takeaway from today in terms of the BTC update would be the 61.8 needs to be tested if we are going to move back up to all-time highs. That's at 59,794 or 59,800. And of course, the more notable levels to look for would be around 52 to 50,000, and that coincides nicely with our CME chart. But anyway, enough about BTC. I think we've covered a fair bit of it, and back to ETH as we spoke about yesterday, and not too much happening on this front. There is a small head and shoulders pattern forming on the 4-hour time frame. It's a bit skewed. I have seen this being thrown around on socials, but a little bit skewed in my opinion, but you could call it there. It's a little bit early too. We are looking like we will retest the $2,000 mark again, and that's following suit with BTC. And of course, we are trending below the 50 RSI. If we put on gravy train, we are trending under the negative or the bearish cloud. Currently, we've had a cross down from our green area, which is just here. And of course, we can take that into account for a further movement towards the downside at 2000. And I think if we do sit around 2000 for a little while, it will satisfy our steamroller indicator that we that we often reference here on the channel at Unity Trading Group. But let's move on, have a look at ADA. So some more levels to look for. There's some more opportunities to be had on cryptos like ADA, big caps, larger caps that we usually talk about in the Discord. Of course, the most notable area is 1.05. We didn't get there on the initial movement down, but it could be a possibility now that we've had a movement towards the downside, and a bearish or like a dead cat bounce, should I say. And it's moving in the same sort of fashion as BTC USD, as the USDT pairs will move with BTC as well. So ETH, BTC, and BTC USD and Ethereum USD will lead the pack for the rest of these. So it's a little bit, it's a bit of a gamble right now, where you've got the TA saying that a further bearish retest will more than likely be on the cards. But then again, you've got indicators like Steamroller, which has been very accurate in the past, and valid movements in the past as well, saying that it might be time to start looking at averaging in. So in full transparency, I have personally been averaging into ADA at these levels, of course, moving down significantly in a 30% movement or a price drop would net be a little bit of a better price. Of course, averaging in my opinion, is the best way to trade these in a spot market. So looking at averaging in, of course, if you're looking at further averaging or further DCA down buys, that would be an interesting or a decent way to leverage yourself or enter this sort of market. Anyway, moving on, let's have a look at XRP USD. So XRP falling from grace from the last movement to the upside. And of course, we've netted a 44% drop since the top at $1.90 USD. And the most notable area for me, of course, is the $10, $6 mark for XRP. Of course, looking at our level of demand down here as well. So we are, again, trending below the 50 RSI. And of course, Steamroller is saying the same thing that it has on the previous pairs we've looked at. So a decent call for the demand level. It can be a little bit skewed. You can be lifting it up to accommodate the retest or even the previous price action. But if we're doing it by the book, you'd probably be looking at around here. But if we're on the high time frames, like a 12-hour time frame, you might net a little bit of a higher or a lower area to work with. And of course, if we have a look at the daily, it might change a little bit more. No, it's very similar. So XRP being one of those that is fairly consistent, but it's a little bit skewed in this instance in terms of our level of demand. So it might be the case that we do see this $10 level of demand be retested, of course, in the coming days. Last one I have a look at this evening to wrap up this update is the DXY. Not a regulated, it is a regulated market, not financial advice at all, just ideas and opinions of Team UTG for the DXY. Now you can see the validity of the 50 and this indicator that we've made. We have been quite bearish for quite some time, and you can see that the RSI does use the 50 level there, the median line in the center, to really act as a level of resistance to keep it on its bearish trajectory towards low 90s, and of course even the 80s if we're going to see it run down that far for the DXY. But last night we did see it move towards the downside, and my next area of interest was going to be around the 90.8 level of demand that we identified last night, and just like that, it has netted us a very decent bounce from here. So we are looking at a decent bounce or a decent oversold condition on the steamroller indicator now for the DXY. So it might be the case that we'll see a little bit of relief come into this market for the most part. So if I'm to draw in the next level of our 4-hour level of supply here, I'd be looking at around this area here at 91.25 in terms of a bounce if we're going to see one. So it would be looking like something like this for a retest, and of course making that decision on, are we going to continue to the next form of liquidity up the top, or are we going to create a lower high and continue to the downside and retest this level here around 89.8. So that's a play that I'm looking towards for the next couple of days. So we'll see how that plays out towards the Saturday in terms of, we've got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and of course Saturday is the last trading night for us in Melbourne. So we'll see how that pans out, in the coming days, in the coming updates, should I say. But thank you all for joining me tonight. Again, thank you all for subscribing to the channel. 1,000 is huge for us here at UTG. Please take advantage of the free RSI indicator that we've got. Of course, it is here, UTG RSI. You can just search that in TradingView and you'll find it pretty much straight away. Start using it. Let us know how you find it. I'm Ads from UTG and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.